Through a row of studio apartments, a man brushes past some rowdy guys and soon reaches his own home. It looks like he's eating ramen for dinner again tonight. This is Hyuk, a 25-year-old guy who's juggling 3 part-time jobs all at once. Even with 3 jobs, he's drowning in debt, so there's no way he can save up enough to finally leave this place. Even if he has to live this way, he must pay his debt, relying only on his healthy body since he has no special skills. Just as he accepts his fate as a pathetic loser, he suddenly wakes up choking on his ramen. He can't believe it. Could someone like him really be an awakener? Some folks say waking up from a coma is a lucky break that could change everything, a miracle even rarer than finding a 4-leaf clover. But remember, only those who are alive can truly enjoy the thrill, since diving into that dungeon is incredibly dangerous. Some monsters can rip you apart, freeze you with icy cold, boil you with scorching heat, poison you, or trap you in their deadly games. He's the kind of person who backs away from fights no matter what, and does his hardest not to walk into any danger. He knows he's a coward who's always acted that way, so he feels no shame about it. But now he is awake, yet unsure if he's just hallucinating from exhaustion. So he checks his status window and confirms he is truly awakened with the summon trait. Every awakened person gets a special power called a trait, which can be anything from fighting with a sword to using a spear or shooting an arrow. You can call upon powerful allies like spirits, familiar spirits, stone golems, and even demonic monsters when you use these advanced summons. This power lets a summoner call on certain kinds of creatures. Hyuk's curiosity about what kind of summoner he was got the best of him, so he tried to use his power, only to realize with a silly sigh that it doesn't work outside the tower. Once you step out of the tower, your special skills vanish, and you're just an ordinary person with nothing left to show but your stats. It's just common sense, so he feels like a fool for not figuring it out sooner. Just as he convinced himself that an ability couldn't work outside, a summon suddenly appears and a person begins to form right in front of him. Hyuk stood frozen in shock, not just because the spell worked, but because the being standing before him proved beyond a doubt that he was truly a person. Hyuk was confused that he had called a human outside the tower instead of the golem or spirit he expected. The man called in took a huge sniff and asked if he was eating ramen before offering to take a bite. Hyuk nodded, convinced he'd just called in a moocher. The man gulps down the noodles as if they were on fire, convinced they are super spicy, not realizing they are actually mild to dawn. Anyway, Hyuk is totally puzzled because he never heard of the human summon, so how did he manage to activate this skill right outside the tower? He opens the status window and sees that he can call upon humans and demi-humans of every rank, from rare and special right up to legendary and super rare. It feels like there are levels to this, kind of like trying to pull off a clever trick with a character who catches you off guard. Hyuk also learns that the summoned creature must follow 3 rules. The summon's only job is to keep the summoner safe at all costs, so even if they are told to do something dangerous, they must drop everything and obey the order to stay alive. Hyuk found the idea of absolute obedience tempting, but he couldn't help wondering just who this mysterious stranger really was. Thinking of that, he pulls out John Kozak, the legendary and deadly assassin from the Cruel Guild, who can stay summoned for 6 hours but needs a 3-hour break before he can be called again. All of this knowledge floods into Hyuk's mind instantly, but he also fades away into a vision of Kozak effortlessly slicing through a crowd of men and placing their severed heads onto bows. His downfall began with just one mistake. He aimed his attack at the Empire's most powerful swordmaster, a foe far stronger than he was. Just as the vision fades, Kozak steps up behind him to ask what he's thinking. This made Hyuk instantly leap away, and Kozak apologized, still wondering if Hyuk had any orders. Hyuk couldn't help but feel scared, even though the summon had to obey his orders. He takes a deep breath and orders him to scrub the ramen pot and wipe down the table, which Kozak does right away. Hyuk is still blown away, and he's not even complaining about it. He imagines that someone in his position would surely agree, so to be safe he asks if the man wouldn't do something ridiculous, but Kozak simply promises to follow any order he gives. Hyuk asks him to bark like a dog, but Kozak stays quiet, making Hyuk realize he might have pushed too far. Suddenly, Kozak starts prancing around and barking like a puppy. So Hyuk gives a thumbs up, though he can't help but feel weird watching a legendary assassin act so silly. Just then, a frantic pounding erupts at his door, demanding he open it right now. Hyuk had completely forgotten that today was the day he was supposed to pay off his interest. While hiding Kozak, he thinks about what just happened. He had to borrow 10 million won from a loan shark because the banks wouldn't lend him anything. He had to take on the debt to cover his dad's hip surgery after a bad eye slip and to pay for his younger brother's college. And while he hoped to pay it back fast, he hasn't touched the main amount yet, but has already paid 5 million just in interest. He knows it was a stupid thing to do, but with no other way out, he would still make that same choice. Kosik shouts to him, telling him to just give the order because Kosik will bring back all of their heads. Hyuk shoves him into the bathroom to hide and stay perfectly still with his mouth shut, but Kosik begs to just be able to breathe, which Hyuk finally lets him do. Hyuk opens the door to find the worried loan shark, who was sure Hyuk was sick since he hadn't received the money yet, so Hyuk quickly apologizes and admits he just sent the payment. The loan shark warns him not to push too hard, promising that if things get tough, he can always sell a kidney to make all his troubles disappear. One of the punks mentions he has a younger brother, so the loan shark nods in agreement and says that the younger they are, the easier they are to sell. Hyuk glares at them while the loan shark asks if he's ready for a beating. Hyuk instantly says no, because he would never dare to do it. With that, they head off, and Kozak steps out to hear Hyuk tell him he did a great job keeping his mouth shut. He is totally worn out after pulling a double shift, waking up, and even summoning a human. Maybe he should climb the tower to pay off his debts, but since he's too scared to try, the money he could earn there will never be his. Kozak asks what to do next, and Hyuk offers to just dismiss him if they want to go back. Kozak requests to watch TV because it has been too long since the last time. Hyuk doesn't understand how he knows about ramen and TVs, but he just lets it happen. That night, as he sleeps and Kozak watches, he thinks it's not bad to have someone else around to keep watch. It feels almost comforting, like he can finally rest instead of burning himself out. So he drifts off and wakes at 8 a.m. to find Kozak gone, likely because the 6-hour time limit has run out. So he had to forget about waking up and get ready to work. While he listens to the news, he learns that 3 victims found in Jongnyo-gu this morning, where an illegal lending office called Smile Cash is located, have all had their heads cut off. What really shocks us is that the victims' heads were found decorated with ribbons, showing the killer had a clear purpose. Hyuk knew just one person who fit that description, and it was Kozak. He's lost his comforting charm since he invited a psychopathic murderer into his home and then slept with him right there. Hyuk digs deeper to get the truth and spots the photos from the crime scene. It was obvious that Kozak had done this. He feels his life is finished, but keeps searching for a different ending, though it's obvious Kozak is the one pulling the strings. Then a customer walks into the shop and starts seeing the loan shark's head, which is floating in the air above the corpse's empty neck. His eyes widen in sudden terror as he spots the other 2, forcing him to leap back in pure panic. The woman who only wanted to order something asks if he is okay, and as he snaps back to his senses, he apologizes deeply for everything he has done. After work, he realizes he can't keep going like this, so he decides to take a day off from all his jobs tomorrow. He still carries the heavy weight of his conscience on his shoulders. Did those folks lose their lives because of him? Once he got home and the air grew cold, he opened Kozak's file. He is a truly terrifying assassin who no one dares to hurt because he can summon monsters, yet his presence still sends a chill down everyone's spine. He steadies his nerves and calls Kozak back, but the system first wants him to rate how much he enjoyed the experience. Hyuk thinks he was just watching TV, but then he goes around killing people without anyone telling him to, so he's such a pain in the neck that he deserves just 1 finger and 1 star. He wishes he could be cold-hearted, but he can't, which earns him 3 stars. His mom once ran a water filter rental business, so he knows how crushing a bad review feels, and that's why he never gives a single star unless he truly hates the product. With that, he calls Kozak to duty and thanks him for the 3 stars, promising to work even harder to keep him happy. But Hyuk can't shake the feeling that this innocent-looking guy really did kill 3 people, so he decides to ask if he killed the folks who came yesterday. Kozak nodded with a smile, remembering how he looked after them last night. Hyuk finally realizes he's facing a real killer, and his knees are giving out while his heart pounds wildly. He should take a deep breath and relax, because he has no intention of hurting him. He asks how he could have known where their office is. The Kozak says he left a tracker mark on those rascals when they broke into his house. Hyuk guesses that he must have some special skill and wonders why he went so far for someone like him. Kozak says he saw them as a danger that needed to be removed before they could act, but Hyuk insists he never gave the order, so Kozak replies that the 3rd rule of their code has now taken effect. He listens to every order, but the moment his summoner is in trouble, he must jump into action. Hyuk asked if Kozak would still obey in order to kill him, and when Kozak agreed, Hyuk noted that there was no immediate danger and questioned why Kozak felt the need to decide for him. But Kozak pointed out that the rules are open to many interpretations and ultimately depend on the summoner, viewing those men as future threats whose mention of selling a kidney only made things worse. Hyuk feels that thought is crazy and quickly apologizes, but Kozak tells him it's okay since he hears that kind of thing all the time. Hyuk gets it, but this could get really dangerous later on. As he walks through the busy street, he might try to act tough after bumping into a punk, but it's just an empty threat that could get him into trouble again if Kozak takes it too seriously. Kozak drops to his knees and blames himself, but Hyuk pulls him up and warns him that killing only makes things worse and puts him in real danger. Kozak remarks that no one would notice, and Hyuk promises he won't do it again. Kozak won't give his word, but Hyuk forces him to promise that without a knife at his throat, he won't act on any suspicions. Kozak sidesteps the request and says he'll just do his best. Hyuk finally agrees to let them go for now, but right before they leave, Kozak asks if he's ever thought about climbing the tower. Hyuk trembles, knowing this climb is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, but he's terrified because the tower is deadly and he could die there. Hyuk wondered if anyone else, like him, could summon spirits. Kozak nodded in agreement, saying that they had all been strong and brave people. Hyuk feels ashamed because while others use their special powers to save the world, he lacks the courage to even risk his own life. Hyuk admits to himself once more that he is a pathetic coward, yet Kozak believes he is the greatest summoner of all. A summoner's most important quality is always staying safe. Bravery acts like a poison, making a summoner so dangerous that he never knows when death might take him. And if he does, no one can ever leave the place again. He doesn't need to worry because he'll do all the hard stuff while he hides away and lives long and well. Hyuk tossed and turned, unable to rest because he was too scared to decide if he should climb the tower. But who really cares if he's angry? He should be thankful his debts and the collectors vanished, and sadly, their deaths likely freed a lot of people they had trapped. For now, he'll stick to a steady, ordinary job and just keep working hard to stay safe. Just as things were going well, his dad called with shocking news that he needed to move him to a larger hospital to finish his recovery. And on top of that, his mom lost her job, but he shouldn't worry too much since he only called because he hadn't heard from him in a while. Hyuk realizes he'll be there in a bit, and then they can finally eat together. After chatting for a bit, he hangs up and quickly puts on his full safety gear. He's heading to the first floor so he can escape if things get dangerous. And since he has no work to do today, the timing works out perfectly. Before calling Kozak, he might as well try summoning someone else, just in case they pull off a legendary feat. But he can't do that because the system needs a whole month to cool down. Finally, he has no choice but to call upon Kozak, who gladly jumps at the chance to help. Hyuk secretly hopes no one knows he tried summoning someone else before deciding to brave the tower, an act Kozak finds foolish rather than heroic. Hyuk decides he'll only take a quick look and leave, while Kozak tosses his gear aside to show the way once they go inside. He'll make sure he stays safe and comfortable the whole time, without even lifting a finger. With that, they take off, and Hyuk starts dropping through the floor as he gets whisked away. Hyuk keeps plunging down through the floor until he finally crashes onto a sandy patch below. The first floor looks like a total wasteland. Before anything else, he gags and vomits his lunch, showing he's not used to falling from such a height. Next, they step out of the safe zone where Hyuk receives upgrades that match his level, unlocking new traits and combat skills. Hyuk felt a sudden rush of strength, proving that this is the true power of a player. The first floor's main job is to kill 5 tough, fat maggots. It's really just a place to test your skills, where the tough skin maggots are nothing but scarecrows standing there to see how well you can handle yourself. Even though they can't do much damage, their skin is so tough that they are very hard to kill. People say some players get only 1 kill every 30 minutes, but he is now a player too. He strides forward with a set jaw to take out the first target, but Kozak says he doesn't have to bother. He walks up to the maggot, then turns away because he forgot to borrow a weapon. Right then, the maggot shoots up into the air, ready to smash him. Hyuk turns to look at the danger and asks Kozak for help, who says that is a very smart thing to do. Before anyone could blink, he dove at the maggot and smashed it with a single punch, then surged through the rest, sending them flying before he hurled a swarm of knives at them. Finally, he triggers the blade burst that sends them exploding while he stands his ground with his back to the fire, remembering that cool guys never watch their own explosions. Hyuk is blown away as he picks up a glowing 100-gram mana stone and earns both an SS rank and a shiny platinum badge just by reaching the first floor. Hyuk feels like this is a breeze, and if he keeps rolling along, he'll be loaded with cash before you can blink. He was unaware of this at the time, yet every player across Korea received the same news, and when Hyuk returned to his apartment, he was told he could now challenge the second floor. He is shocked that it was done in just 5 minutes, and Kozak says the job was a perfect success. Hyuk felt stuck doing nothing, but Kozak told him that was exactly what he needed to do, and even though Hyuk thought exhausting himself to kill monsters should take forever, it felt surprisingly easy. He stares at his rewards, the mana stone and the badge, and grabs the stone, knowing it's now a cheap but essential item that only costs about 50,000 won for every 100 grams since the tower made it so common. Most folks are already in the know about what the tower is all about. He had never seen a platinum badge before. Anyway, he managed to make some cash in just 3 minutes. To celebrate, he prepares a feast, and Kozak sniffs it, thinking it's the spicy jock ball, but it's just regular food since Hyuk knows Kozak can't handle the heat. Kozak digs in to dig deeper, and thanks his summoner for their kind words. Hyuk tells him there's no need for such formality, and asks if this is how he usually speaks. Kozak thought his old summoner's spirit still lingered in him, because they had spent so much time together. Hyuk smiles, carrying the quiet echo of his former partner and summoner within him. Kozak realizes he could stop whenever he wanted, but Hyuk just says it's okay to keep going. The man isn't a threat to him, and he's even said the tower is definitely doable. By the next morning, Hyuk has settled into a fresh daily rhythm. He quit his day jobs at the convenience store and barbecue spot to spend his nights climbing the tower with Kozak. He called him over, and he was thrilled to get another perfect score, though Hyuk wanted to make sure he got a 10 out of 10 just then. He also explains why he's so excited to get a good score, and it makes you wonder if that really matters so much. Kozak says that a higher rating means better rewards, so if a summon or rank boost happens, he naturally gets even more summons to boot. They head up to the second floor, where they must hunt down 10 quick, chubby maggots before the 2-hour clock runs out. Hyuk knows these guys are tricky because they never stay in one place. He warns Kozak to hold back or he'll die, but Kozak shakes his head and refuses to listen. This whole thing will wrap up in just 3 minutes, after which he'll be quickly taken care of and sent right home. As Hyuk leaps in, he asks if they should get chicken for dinner. Kozak agrees and thanks him before swatting away the maggots with zero effort. It's absolutely crazy to watch him keep taking bigger and bigger rewards one after another. Now that the second floor is done, Hyuk levels up, finds a 200G mana stone, and earns a platinum badge for his amazing S++ rank. Hyuk wonders if things really can be this easy, since everything is moving way too fast. This way, he can slip in and out before his morning shift. Just as expected, he gets to try again, and Kozak sees his landing improving, though it still falls just a bit short. Reaching the third floor, he finds a mana stone worth 300 gold, and, as expected, gets another platinum badge. The fourth and fifth floors follow this same pattern. With 5 platinum badges in hand, Hyuk earns a special reward he can't wait to discover. He unlocks a special upgrade that boosts the number of player summons he can bring to battle by 2. Hyuk is shocked because he can now bring a new summon, but Kozak is already doing great on his own. It looks like the S++ clear rewards are truly amazing. Since the tower will keep getting harder, this is much safer now. He can't summon a new creature for 20 more days, so he has to be extra careful not to die before then. After that, his 2 summoning tickets will keep clearing at the top rank, but he's still climbing. Inside the Korean Awakening Management Department, a meeting is happening, but everyone sits in total silence. One can only guess if he'll share it this morning or wait until the evening. Suddenly, a woman steps right up to him and brings up the big news, making John, the team leader, jump in surprise as he realizes it's Lee, the manager. He asks if a new notice is up, and she confirms it, an S++ rank clear on the 6th floor of the Black Tower. John stares in shock as the Black Tower of announcements fills with one unbelievable S++ victory after another, proving that a genius has taken over the floors in perfect order, and now everyone wonders what will happen when they reach the 10th. The other guy there smashes the table with a loud crash. He is Park Kyung-soo, the director, and while everyone knew it was the top rank, they only recently learned that even higher levels like S++ exist and are announced for all to see when achieved. Players are moving between clubs all over the world, and some are being snatched away in the dark. Before they lose that player to another country, they have to find them. 2 days later, while Kozak was washing dishes, Hyuk checked if they were on the 8th floor and got a yes. Hyuk feels happy because the first 10 floors are just a beginner's area, making everything feel easy. After a short while, they head up to the 8th floor to face 10 red thorn frog warriors, creatures far more dangerous than the worms. But Kozak is too strong for them, slicing them into tiny pieces before they can even fight back. After returning from the tower, Kozak congratulates Hyuk on earning an 800G mana stone, a level up, and a platinum badge, even though Hyuk feels bad about not doing much, because Kozak knows that just getting in is a big win, but warns him not to relax since the floors past the 10th are truly dangerous. Hyuk decides to reward Kozak for his quick 3-minute cleanup with some cash to enjoy the remaining time before he reappears. Kozak won't leave Hyuk's side, so he just settles down to watch TV. And when Hyuk is surprised that his guard is down enough to order chicken, Kozak is already on it. Hyuk also found a special healing potion that only he could get, and he decided to give it to Kozak. He's stuck wondering what to do with those 3.5 kilo mana stones sitting in his bag, worth nearly 2 million won if he sells them, so he knows he should cash them in before he changes his mind. On day 10, just as Hyuk was about to rush up to the 10th floor, He surprised himself because he had planned only a quick stop, but they'd been working so hard all day that they were already ready. Yesterday, even taking out the monsters on the 9th floor felt easy, because while clearing the floor was expected, that special bonus reward was exactly what he was hoping for. This is surprisingly comforting, especially for Kozak, whom Hyuk basically forgot is a crazy assassin. He calls in Kozak, and because he gave the highest rating possible, the summoning time stretches by an hour, a trick Hyuk will surely use later. As they step onto the 10th floor, Hyuk can truly feel it. The tower readjusted his skills, and he felt a surge of wild power and mystery bubbling inside his stomach. Has Bonju Hyuk turned into a wild horse you can't control? He grabs Kozak's shoulder and says, "From now on, I'm helping too." But Kozak disagrees. If he gets even a tiny scratch by some wild chance, he'll have to pay for it. So Hyuk tells him not to worry because he's already as wild as a horse. But right then, the enemy of this area shows up, forcing Hyuk to take off his cosplay. He can't figure out how the other players managed to catch something that wild. Hyuk makes up a story to save face, saying that charging at the bugs together would hurt their pride, so he insists on going first. The mantis strikes at Kozak, who leaps away, scrambles up its back, and brings the beast crashing down. Once he steps out of the tower, Hyuk checks his rewards, a mana stone weighing either a kilogram or 2 pounds, plus a new perk unlocked by his final platinum badge. He waits with bated breath until the reveal, a brand new copy skill gifted by his summon. Seeing this, Kozak tells him to learn Shadow Step without any questions or arguments. Hyuk wants to know the reason, but Kozak points out that it's a smart trick for getting away, since if things go wrong, he can flee in a flash. Hyuk feels his pride wounded and refuses to run away, asking himself just who he thinks he is to act that way. He instantly masters a Shadow Step because moving your feet quickly is key to fighting well. He steps outside to give it a try, but since it's not working well, he starts to get frustrated. On the 11th day of climbing the tower, he sheepishly calls the management center to say he finally woke up. Before Hyuk could even agree, the voice on the other end says they'll be sending government reps to his home to guide him right away. He decided to sell his mana stones, a bold choice that marked the bravest moment of his 25 years. As Lee climbs into the car, John asks about the mysterious voice from Taegu, but she shakes her head and says she isn't the special one. They have another awakening to face today, so he agrees to let Hyuk come along to help them track down the missing person. If they find these people, they'll rush them to the elite team and flood them with every single benefit the Awakening Department manager can possibly offer. Hyuk scrubs the floor just as the Awakening Department bursts through the door. He opens the door for them, and John steps forward to introduce himself and Lee as they walk inside. Now that a woman is involved, Hyuk gets even more nervous as she steps up to him and asks if he really is the S++ guy. Hyuk jerks back in fear and quickly asks himself what is happening. Has he ever heard of an awakening detection method? First, he has to deny it, so he must act completely natural. He instantly acts as if he has no idea at all, claiming he heard about it, but insisting it's not him. Lee stared at him, seeing right through his obvious lie, and when John tried to tap her head, she dodged because she knows not to push people like that. They both say sorry, but Hyuk just shakes his head and says it's okay. Everyone sat down and pulled up a video where Tavid, Korea's Black Tower mascot, introduced himself as their guide. Jet black and towering so high it swallows every human building. The Black Tower has sat here since it appeared out of nowhere 20 years ago. Nations sent their armies and scientists rushed to solve the puzzle. Yet no one could get near the tower because an invisible wall seemed to block the way. So what is this tower? It's a game where players jump from floor to keep going. Outside, they're just regular folks, but inside the tower, they unlock awesome powers, spend their rewards on better gear, and help make the whole place thrive. If the new top of the tower isn't reached within 6 months, a timer starts ticking until the whole thing falls down, which is exactly how Mumbai vanished 3 years ago. Every nation has a few black towers, but South Korea only has one, and just a tiny handful of 5,000 to 10,000 people play this game. Even so, Korea is slowly climbing the ladder right behind America. So the heroes of their society are stepping up to protect them while learning the secrets of the Black Tower. After sharing a few more details, they shut the laptop, and Jing says they're ready to ask some verification questions now. They question if he's truly awakened, and Hyuk nods to prove it by handing over a few of his mana stones. They asked which floor he'd reached. He said the 10th, making them think he was the S++ Lee. And when Lee asked if he'd heard the trending announcement, he agreed while sounding just like a robot again. So Jong decided he was definitely up to something and started explaining the contract terms. The government splits the players into 2 squads, an elite team and a regular team. The general team is made up of freelancers who plan and tackle dungeon raids all by themselves. On the other hand, Elite individuals stay close to the government's awakening management department, and while they must take on dangerous high-level clears, they are rewarded with benefits like personal protection outside the tower. Hearing all this, Hyuk realizes that if he admits he's the S++ player, he'll be swamped with attention, which he absolutely hates. As Jong lays out the rules for the elite team, Hyuk quietly says he's not interested in joining. He feels good about the whole team. He's got no talent, and it's terrifying. He's okay with taking a fair share of the rewards. Lee sees this and realizes they've hit a dead end again. Many just want to stop at a safe place and enjoy their hunt. But this is the first time she's seen someone so openly refuse the gift, and someone so ungrateful simply doesn't deserve it. Even if he'd offered to join the elite team, he'd still be rejected because that group demands a burning desire to climb, and he simply doesn't have it. Jong agrees to his choice, but he has to go into the tower for a while, so they can make sure he truly woke up. If he throws away his one chance to enter, he might as well clear the floor too. Hyuk knew he was being tested, so he agreed, but warned that it would take nearly 2 hours. Lee reassures him that it's his job, so he shouldn't worry and can just take his time. Hyuk slips into his outfit and waves them off to relax before he leaves. With that, he vanishes, proving he is truly a player. Jong leans in and asks Lee what she really thinks of him. She notices he looks way too shy, with quiet words and slow moves that might mean he'll quit before reaching the 11th floor. She's beaten this before, but it really pushes your fear, especially with those long-tailed centipedes that you have to kill hundreds of to win. He might quit and run back to the safe zone, trusting what Jong says, so he should call the chief to report another mistake. Hyuk calls Kozak to a mission that makes him cringe at the thought of killing centipedes, and while Kozak thinks it will take 5 minutes, Hyuk insists they drag it out to an hour just to avoid getting a top-tier rank. With people watching from outside, he's taking him up to the tower today as well. He only needed to prove he walked in, but the team chose to do a full sweep, so he will walk away from the S++ charges completely free. Kozak hits one instantly, which makes Hyuk ask him to go slower, and he does, which stretches things out for a long time. But just then, a centipede shoots up from the dirt right under Hyuk's feet. With that, centipedes swarm and attack him, but Kozak leaps in to save his master by easily crushing the pests, and then goes out of his way to kill a huge pile of them. Hyuk yells for Kozak to slow down, yet Kozak insists on following the safety rules, and soon he blasts through the dungeon with an S++ rank. In a flash, they're thrown out of the dungeon while the pair in his apartment are told that the 11th floor has been wiped clean with an S++ rank. There's no doubt about it. The person standing right there is exactly who they were searching for. Hyuk didn't want to do it, but he had to shut them up. Before he can order Kozak to tie them up, he rushes in and cuts their heads off, instantly putting their bodies into bows. Hyuk is so sure this will happen that he's already soaked just from imagining it. Jong insists that their top team needs a player with his special talent. Hyuk tries to act like this is just a mix-up, claiming his path must have crossed with another player's. Jong insists it's not true while they check things, yet Hyuk keeps pushing his story forward anyway. Jong gets it, and now that they've made sure he's awake, it's time to get his contract ready. Hyuk reads the document and realizes it's an elite contract, even though he had only asked for a standard one. Jong nods, convinced he's right because this is a whole new level entirely. It's the one special deal reserved only for the very best. He will earn a yearly salary of 12 billion won, plus housing, protection, and total legal immunity. Hyuk feels like he's living the life of a king. Jong says that only Yoo Cheol-min, Korea's top player, can unlock these powers, and since it will help his country, he needs to think about it. Hyuk refuses to play without a regular contract. Jong wants to know why he hates it, but Hyuk just can't stand the attention. Carrying that heavy weight of too many eyes on you feels like a crushing stress you can't escape. His chest feels like it's squeezing tight. Basically, he's someone who loves being alone and feels drained by crowds. Jong decides to step back for now and mentions they will offer him a standard contract. Hyuk realized that anyone watching would find it frustrating to hear him say why they shouldn't just sign the elite contract and get all the benefits, since that deal comes with a huge amount of responsibility. Even though he'd love to stop climbing, he can't, so he'd rather avoid the stress and just go back to his easy job at the awakening department, leaving the chief confused because this sounds nothing like the timid player he spoke to on the phone. Is that the very same person who earned the legendary S++ title? Jong nodded in agreement. It turns out he's just got a one-of-a-kind personality. He's the kind of regular person you seldom get to see. The chief wonders if they might be wrong, but Lee shakes his head, saying the timing is too perfect to be a mistake. The boss doesn't mind that he's a bit timid because his talent is so great that they'll have to throw everything they've got to get him onto the elite team. Back at Hyuk's house, he scolds Kozak. His rage boils over because he blew the whole thing, and if he makes one more bad move, he'll be finished in an instant. They They head up to the 12th floor to take out 20 icicle weasels. Hyuk tells Kozak to take it slow, hoping this time he can trust him, because if they finish it the normal way, the department will lose interest and leave him alone, which is exactly what he wants. But it's also freezing out there. Even though he was ready, he's still shivering, so he'll just tough it out. Seeing the pain on Kozak's face from the freezing cold, he rushes to finish quickly and get him into a warm room. He rushes in, easily wipes out the weasels, and helps Hyuk earn another S++ reward. Right after John calls, he instantly brings Kozak back because there is no soup for those who don't listen. The next day on the 13th floor, Kozak grabs Hyuk to carry him through a maze of deadly traps so his master stays safe, and they blast through the course together in a record-breaking dash to the finish. Up on the 14th floor, Kozak swiftly blasts away the bats with sonic waves to keep Hyuk safe from their deadly attacks. By now, he didn't care at all, having already raked in 2 million for mana stones and another 2 million for player support, plus what he earned on floors 11 through 14. So in just 2 weeks, he'd walked away with 7 million won. If he climbs the 20 floors without a hitch, the mana stones he earns as a prize will be heavy enough to crush his hands. If he gets the new system to run the sales, he'll make $1 million every day with no taxes, which means he'll become incredibly wealthy. The next day, Kozak rushes to bow the moment he is called, still holding his 5-star rank despite all the times he disobeyed orders. Hyuk tells him to relax once they reach the 15th floor since he won't have to take it slow anymore. With everything now exposed, if he earns that S++ rank on the 15th floor, he'll unlock his 15 platinum badge and claim another special perk, even though his greed is growing, because every extra badge makes him safer. Inside, they head up to the 15th floor to take out 20 goblin workers. Hyuk is seeing humanoid monster for the first time. They aren't very strong, but they are smart enough to make clearing the early floors a real bother, even if he knows what to expect. Kozak warns that if one of these clever creatures slips away, the rest will come. So he must hide perfectly while hunting them all down in one go. Kozak moves quietly and vanishes them so fast that the beasts never even realize they're gone. With that done, the floor was instantly clear, and Hyuk immediately opened his inventory. With 15 platinum badges under his belt, he finally unlocks a new special reward. As he gathered 5 badges, a reward upgraded his power, and at 10, he unlocked the ability to steal skills from his summon allies. But what surprise awaits him this time? This time, the reward is an energy barrier kit that shields you from harm by absorbing damage, but only works so many times before needing a 5-hour recharge. Hyuk puts on the armor, realizes it's a complete set, and since it has no tower markings, he's free to wear it anywhere. He ponders if selling the tower for 3 or 4 billion would be the perfect way to finally quit and walk away. But climbing higher could bring even greater rewards, so he asks Kozak if they can clear floor 16 with an S++ rating. He believes it can be done, but they must tread carefully because there is no promise of success. Hyuk is shocked by what he just heard and isn't sure what to do next. Back at the player department, the chief asks Jong and Lee how long it's been since the S++ record was last updated. They shout that 15 days have passed, and they're still stuck on the 15th floor. The chief looked at the sky and wondered why someone so brave had given such amazing talent to a person so scared. Jong says the challenge gets much harder starting on the 16th floor, but since he isn't giving up on beating it, we should just wait a bit longer. Just as he speaks, he learns that Hyuk is heading to the Awakening department to try using the player's shop. Now the chief finally gets it. He's been selling floors to raise money for buying things. Jong felt the same way, remembering how he showed up with nothing but empty hands when they first came to see him. The chief calls himself a fool, about to criticize Hyuk before he even realizes it. But once he arrives, they will support him with whatever he wants at a generous price. 15 days back, Hyuk gave Kozak the one thing he hated most, to be stabbed with a dagger. Kozak asked why Hyuk was causing trouble over just a small stab, since Hyuk only wanted to check if his energy barrier was working and could have just killed him if he disliked him so much. Kozak kept saying no, but his stubborn refusal made Hyuk drive his own hand right into his chest. Unfortunately, he forgot to activate the barrier, so he healed himself up while Kozak prepared to chop off the evil arm that dared to do such a thing. He made Hyuk promise never to do it again, and once Hyuk agreed, he let him return to the hunt. As he stared at him, Hyuk figured his hunt was only 10 minutes away, so he decided to keep drilling his skills in the meantime. He vanishes in his shadow and pops up right beside you in a flash. He wasn't expecting to feel this way, but now he finally understands why Kozak suggested it. He zips around like a bird with no chains holding him back. Suddenly, he stumbled upon a goblin, likely hiding from Kozak. As Hyuk appeared, the beast lunged forward, but the barrier blocked the first strike and let Hyuk kick the monster back. Seeing this, Kozak sliced the goblin in half, thought the move was cool, but then remembered what happened and sprinted to Hyuk's side. He wanted to know if he was alright. Why did he suddenly fight a goblin when he begged him, even with his powers, not to be reckless and put himself in danger? Hyuk covered his ears and promised he'd be more careful. After 2 weeks of crushing monsters on the 15th floor, Hyuk's skills grew sharp, and his pile of mana stones finally hit 11 million won. He calls Jong to ask if he can head to the player shop now, and Jong happily agrees, even offering to send someone to pick him up right away. But after Hyuk suggests he could just come himself, Jong insists on it, so Hyuk decides to wait. Jong waits at the entrance with a smile as he steps out of the limousine. Hyuk bowed along with the others, thinking that even though he was just a regular contractor, they were treating him like royalty. They head to the shop where Hyuk signs up and registers, and Jang tells him he can come and go anytime without a call, then asks if he'd like to take a tour. Hyuk turns down the offer, wanting only to get a look around. Then he steps into the player's shop, which looks incredibly fancy, yet there isn't a single customer around. Maybe the things are just too pricey, so he needs to sell those mana stones first. He promises the clerk that 11 million won will land in his account in 3 days, and when Hyuk asks if he can use it right now, the clerk gives him the thumbs up. He feels instantly exhausted from chatting and decides to rush out and grab something before going home. The chief asks Jang if Hyuk got in fine, and Jang nods while checking his phone and telling them the shop is closed for the day. He also asks the staff to offer him a 90% discount since his shy nature might make him feel awkward if he received everything for free. Later, Hyuk stepped up to buy an iron mace for 2 million won and a pair of basilisk leather boots for 3 million. He heard the price tag was a massive 20 to 30 million, and since Jang came out to greet him personally, he knew he was getting special treatment no matter how he tried to act casual. Even though these items are great, he only used these boots as armor because of the energy barrier that serves as a single, unified shield for his defense. This was all thanks to his perks, and he decided not to be greedy when he first started climbing, even though those perks are incredibly tempting. The following day, Hyuk calls Kozak to ask if they will repeat floor 15, but Kozak realizes Hyuk actually wants to push forward since his summoning cooldown has finally ended, allowing him to call one more ally. As he chants every prayer he knows, his summoner slowly forms, stretching upward until its head bursts through the ceiling. What exactly did he call up? As the summon fully forms, and he slowly pulls his head out of the ceiling, Hyuk wonders if he is a human or a monster. Kozak launches a jumping kick and asks why Hyuk is here to ruin lives, while Hyuk wonders if they know each other, and the barbarian quips that his attacks only feel like a tickle. The Cossack wonders if he'll say the same words once he cuts off his own head, and he might even tie a pretty ribbon around the stump. Hyuk steps in and forces Cossack to halt, proving that one shattered ceiling is all it takes. He asks the Cossack to step aside for a quick chat with their new guest, but the warrior refuses, warning that the stranger is a notorious fool who likely knows nothing about how summoned creatures work. The barbarian realizes he trained them, wondering if they obeyed like a summoned tool or lived as independent souls, while also learning to value their lives and face the coming fight. The Cossack's new Cossack was useless and had to kill him, so he couldn't be called back for 100 days. Hyuk grabs his tab and lifts it up. He's that R-rank meat shield from the Great Plains tribe, and honestly, waiting a month for another try feels like a real letdown. He starts questioning the barbarian about his name, why he's here, and if he knows about the tower, only to learn the barbarian doesn't know the answers to any of those questions. Hyuk thought he was just reading a story, but suddenly the barbarian's wild memories pulled him right back into the action. He spots him running through the grass, playing with the fluttering butterflies. He was a spirit so pure that he found joy just by living among nature. But even though he was too simple-minded to even remember his own name, his body was incredibly strong. Tricked into being a living meat shield against the arch-fiend Hydra, the barbarian warrior stood his ground and tore off its heads one by one, unaware that his own skin was melting away as he sacrificed himself to save his friends. Finally, the built-up acid in his breath killed him, and his friends were happy it was over, while Hyuk finally understood why he was called a meat shield. He knows he won't turn anyone away, so he opens his arms to the stranger and promises they'll climb the mountain side by side. They ought to begin with his name, but he might just want to be called Barbara or Meatball. He was clueless, so Hyuk made him choose, and he picked a Meatball. Hyuk tells him not to worry, promising to bring him happiness, and Meatball trusts him because he is his summoner. Now they're all comrades, so they must work together. Kozak grumbles at first, but once his calculations are done, he finally gets it. This guy is a perfect meat shield, and he'll show him exactly how to use him. As Kozak tries to steer him right, Hyuk thinks of their strange squad, a shy player, a crazy killer, and a goofy brute, and he's convinced they can make it work, no matter how odd it seems. On the 16th floor, they must take out 30 goblin scouts, So Kozak tells Hyuk to build an energy shield, keep his shadow step ready, and move whenever needed. These goblins launch surprise poison darts from the shadows, so you never know when they'll strike. As sure as you can be, they are hiding in the trees, and one of them fires a quick dart at Hyuk, which Kozak barely manages to catch. Kozak throws up his arm to catch the goblin's blows, while Hyuk dives for safety. Looking at all the arrows flying, he sees there are way more than 50 goblins here, so he orders Meatball to stand in front and block them. Hearing this, Meatball leaps into the air, and as he falls, the goblins attacking Kozak start to run away. But his landing sends everyone flying, even Kozak, and as Hyuk watches with wide eyes, the goblins start shooting arrows at him from afar. But the darts bounce off his thick skin and can't get through. With that, Meatball leaps into the fray and wipes out every single opponent. Hyuk stands frozen in shock, wondering how he could end up with such a lower rank. When they return, Hyuk treats him to a feast of chicken that he loves, but Kozak complains because he calls it kitchen chicken, while Meatball mocks him for looking silly, so Hyuk tells him to stop fighting until Meatball finally calls him a good guy. Since he fed them in the kitchen, he will give life, but Hyuk blushes, realizing this is nothing compared to what they do and that he should be the one asking for their help. Just as Kozak punches him in the face, Hyuk immediately scolds him for bothering him while he was eating, only for Kozak to reply that he thought he needed a lesson. The following day, they head to the 17th floor to give Hyuk a fresh boost. He feels his strength surge back with his heart pounding, wondering if the wild horse inside him is waking up once more. So Kozak decides to take the lead at this perfect moment of complacency while Meatball vows to watch his back no matter what. Their mission is to take down 30 goblin warriors, but Hyuk feels scared now that he sees them up close, especially since there are at least 90 of them here who are actually quite smart and know how to fight. The guide told them to run to the safe zone right when they showed up, so that by the time they returned, the enemies would be spread out and just walking around in small groups of 3. They must sneak up and take out 3 enemies at once, keeping the rest from noticing, and keep doing this over and over until it's done, which will take a long time. Hyuk shouts at Meatball and sends him off. With just that order, Meatball surges with power, knowing his master demands the beast be dead. As Meatball surges forward, the goblins raise their shields and brandish their spears, but he pushes right through them all without any trouble. Hyuk thought he was doing an amazing job. Strategy and tactics only work when the fighters are close in size, because trying to beat someone much bigger is like 1,000 soldiers charging at a tank. With that, they sweep the floor in just a few minutes, but Kozak feels a bit sad since he only sees Meatball getting to use it. Up on the 18th floor, Hyuk sends Meatball out to wipe out 30 goblin assassins, but the goblins use their stealth to slip right past him before he can grab them. Meatball gets so mad he throws his arms around wildly to catch them, only for Kozak to laugh at the fool for finally having enough of his clumsy tricks and deciding to win with a cool, smart move. He activates his stealth, moving unseen to take out the goblins one by one without any trouble. Unfortunately for him, this was all part of Hyuk's plan, because Kozak is getting anxious since he isn't being used as much, which has only sharpened his competitive spirit. He's grinding hard to rack up badges and grab those sweet perks before he hits level 18. Now his untamed heart has to go up. He studied every detail of the plan before stepping onto this floor. Since the goblin assassin isn't very good at hiding, anyone who takes a moment to focus can see him coming, so there's no need to be scared now that he has mastered his shadow stepping. He sneaks up behind a goblin, but slips and smashes into it far harder than he meant to. Hyuk thinks he's okay, but then another goblin assassin drops down on him with a blade already at his head. Kozak kept slaying goblins one by one, while Meatball spun around to knock away every attack. Kozak is so focused on proving he's the best that he completely forgets about Hyuk and starts wondering where he went. Luckily, the barrier kept him safe. He'd surely have died if it hadn't been for that, since another assassin suddenly appeared and they launched their attack all at once. Hyuk locks in, his adrenaline slowing the dance of their blades to a tense crawl. It feels like the whole world has slowed down while he is faster than everyone. And with this kill, he clears the floor. Hyuk feels happy about landing the final blow, while Kozak stands right there crying with joy because he sees Hyuk is still alive. The global announcement is instantly posted, bringing great joy to the chief and Jong, who is convinced the items he bought truly made a difference. The chief couldn't wait to announce that this person holds the record for Korea's 18 straight S++ clears. Jong realizes that Hyuk is now such a special player that they must treat him even more gently. Word gets out that someone has cleared 18 S++ ranks in a row, setting a record so new it's being written in real time as the mystery player, currently level 19, continues to make history. Kozak lets out a deep sigh at what he hears, while Hyuk tells him to speak up if he has something on his mind. Kozak feels that the speed at which he is mastering his talent is happening too quickly. Hyuk is so confused that he can't even make the words him and talent fit in the same sentence. He's just pulling a prank, but Kozak knows it's no laughing matter. The final shadow step he demonstrated was so perfect that even he couldn't copy it, making it far more dangerous. He tells Hyuk it's true, promising that finding joy in the fight will build his confidence, which turns into bravery and makes him a dangerous threat, but they promise safety first from the very beginning. Hyuk nods and promises to stay safe, saying he'll only take on one mob at the very most. Kozak can't shake the feeling that he's going to crash someday. Meatball yells at him for crying, and Kozak kicks him right in Hyuk's fridge, causing Hyuk to instantly banish them, but the damage is already done. His mom's kimchi is lying on the floor. To clear his mind, he'll head over to his parents' house tomorrow. He does exactly that, and they open the door to let him in. His bedridden father urges him to visit more since he's nearby, but his mother tells him to stop nagging. Hyuk asked about his hip, reminded that bones take a long time to mend, and spent the whole day in that position. They sit down at the table to eat the mother's stew, and she announces that his brother will be there soon after heading out to buy tofu. While they eat, Hyuk worries about his family struggles, but his mom reassures him that work will come soon, and his dad adds that he should just live his life without worrying about them. Hyuk wonders how nice it would be to wake up just then, but his father laughs and calls it a joke. A stranger who looks just like him stepped into the tower, the same kind of man who once begged a woman to catch cockroaches for him. She realizes it's nothing to brag about and wonders if Hyuk is actually off work now, to which he replies that it is his day off, even though he quit a while ago. Even though his mother catches him lying, she still trusts him. He shouldn't turn to loan sharks, because that's a terrible idea. Hyuk nearly forgot about the whole mess, changed the topic, and asked how her job was going. She says a rude customer who came to repair their water purifier made her clean up all their trash and food waste too, and she just couldn't stand that disrespect. Hyuk sees his mother as fierce and bold, a woman who can't let wrong go unchecked. His dad, who fell hard for her and is a total doormat, ended up making two more of those same nice guys. He's sure everyone is worried, so he'll talk about waking up once things calm down. After spending time with his brother, he hands him their parents' allowance so they don't have to work too hard. His brother asks him to wait and awkwardly stammers, but Hyuk guesses he's shy because he paid for his tuition and realizes he understands exactly how he feels. His brother feels great about the allowance for their parents, but he realizes his own share is still missing. Hyuk was ready to toss him aside, but instead, he tossed him 500,000 won. Afterward, he heads to the department in charge of waking things up. After seeing his family, he made a sudden decision to try this, and the idea of doing it right only grew stronger in his mind. He didn't reach out to Jong like he was told, but he'll be okay. Even though he has that energy barrier, since the monsters keep getting stronger, he's thinking about buying a shield. He's hunting for a female worker worth 100 million won, but he can't ask properly while a crowd blocks his view. Instead, she hands her a tiny, light round hand shield made of adamantium that can even fix itself. Hyuk feels this looks perfect paired with his mace. He grabs it and walks out with it. Talking to the staff is actually harder than fighting goblins. He turns to head home, yet someone calls out to him, reminding him that he hasn't been awake for very long. He steps forward and tells them his name is Choi Hoseok. He visits this place daily, and since he hasn't seen you lately, he's climbing the 30th floor to say hello and isn't sure if it's rude to ask which floor you're on. Hyuk mentions he's in his teens, and Choi tells him to ask for help with anything he needs. Hyuk sees there is nothing there, but Choi tells him to come over anytime if he needs help. As he walks away, Hyuk thinks he's so outgoing that he must have a girlfriend, and he feels a pang of envy. Once he got back home, he checked his level and found it was exactly 19. He feels great because he's finally ready to face the challenge on the 19th floor. But before he does anything else, he needs to call Kozak and make sure they agree. As soon as Kozak is called, his face twists in shock at the sight of Hyuk holding the shield, wondering if he really has to do this. Hyuk plans to keep everyone safe, and Kozak points out that the last summoner said the same thing. Knowing he's a coward, Hyuk decides to bolt and run away. Kozak grabs him and forces a promise that he won't lead the charge into battle. If this starts a rot, he should sacrifice his summons, and he'd better start with the meatball since he's the bigger one. Just as Kozak was about to speak, a heavenly aroma hit his nose, and Hyuk smiled, revealing he'd bought king dumplings for them. Kozak feels a warm glow in his heart as he feeds him before the meatball arrives. Before he can dig in, he stops and asks Hyuk if he holds a grudge against anyone. While Hyuk says no, Kozak remains confused by the intense killing intent coming from outside. Hyuk quickly orders Kozak to hide and raises his shield just as Choi blasts through the door, furious that he couldn't even keep up with such a loser. Hyuk tries to ask what's going on, But Choi silences him by removing his bracelet, opening his inventory, and preparing to fill him with lead. Hyuk is terrified, not of his own safety, but that Choi might die. Choi figured he stumbled because he was clutching that gun. This time, he found some real tasty treats to eat. Just as he was about to knock Hyuk out, Kozak smashed the back of his sword into his head, making Choi drop dead instantly. Hyuk is so relieved he didn't have to kill him. He was scared he'd chop off his own head and end up putting it in a bowl all over again. Anyway, that guy's likely a thief who hunts players outside the tower to kill them and steal their stuff. He has heard of them and now gets why Jong was so desperate to keep them safe. If he hadn't been able to call on powers outside the tower, he'd be dead by now, making this skill a total game changer. Kozak grabs him and tries to drag him away, but Hyuk shouts to wait for the police. The department head learns that Hyuk slipped away to buy a small buckler without anyone noticing at first. They haven't figured him out yet, but buying a mace and shield means he's probably the kind of fighter who loves to get up close and personal. The chief wants more than just a full set, so Jong tries to make up an excuse to give him some, but then a call from the police task force suddenly interrupts him. As soon as he learns what happened, he breaks into a run and dashes through the streets. He should have forced him to sign that special contract right from the beginning. If anything ever happened to Hyuk, what would he do? The officers pin and cuff him, but Choi acts innocent, claiming he was actually kidnapped by that creep. Hyuk realizes this is his home and admits he broke in, while the police insist he must come with them. Hyuk worries he might end up in jail until Jong storms in, only for Choi to think Jong is there to help. But instead, Jong walks right up and smacks him so hard that even the police stop and watch as Choi gets absolutely beaten up while being yelled at. He orders the cops to grab the bad guy and wait for the niece to arrive so she can take him away. Choi bows and begs for his life, even though those bastards torture people for player crimes. But Jong points out he's not the first to try this trick and is just a repeat offender. So even with the best lawyers in the country, they will dig up all his crimes and make sure he gets punished. With that, he gets dragged off, and Jong rushes to Hyuk to ask if he's hurt, only to get an immediate no from him. Then Jong bows his head to promise that this will never happen again, ready to make sure he is always prepared. There's no time to wait on that elite deal. He has to step up and protect the player now. The next day, Hyuk calls for Kozak to ask if the man he's been holding faces execution, and if not, where the place is, but Hyuk knows exactly what he wants and refuses to listen. He calls for Meatball too, who is over the moon to see him racking up so many 5-star reviews. With that settled, they head up to the 19th floor to face 30 goblin shamans who aren't much of a threat since they can only cast weak curses or shoot fire arrows. Just as they step in front of Meatball to stop his charge, he lets out a mighty roar that blows their magic right out of their hands. Kozak creeps up from behind and asks if he remembers their talk, hoping to clear everything up in a flash. Meatball proves it's real, so they both rush forward and take out tons of shamans. Before Hyuk could grab his gear, the floor was swept clean, and Kozak's look told Hyuk they did it just so he wouldn't have to fight. The next day, they climbed to the 20th floor, a level known for being brutally hard. Kozak agrees, noting that goblins of every kind, from poisonous scouts to powerful warriors, gather here. If he were the summoner, he'd be waiting right here, and Meatball agrees. This time, your mission is to slay 100 goblins of any kind and hunt down at least one hobgoblin. As soon as the summons rush in to fight the diverse army of goblins, Hyuk refuses to stand still. He dashes forward using Shadow Step, then leaps even higher by bouncing off the back of Meatball. Kozak can't believe it that Hyuk, the quiet kid who always kept to himself since he was little, actually did it despite Kozak telling him not to. Even when kids took his toys, he stayed quiet, and by elementary school, his struggle had turned into a battle against poverty. Back in middle school, he was just as alone as the rest, sitting quietly in the back while everyone else went off to hang out with their friends. Even back in high school, he always ate lunch all by himself like a total loner because he was too scared to ever try to change. And so, he stayed all alone. Who would have thought the man who couldn't even look a woman in the eye would be fighting monsters inside the tower? But monsters aren't people, so you don't feel fear around them. They're just like any other mob you need to kill for a quest. He just needs to smash them down and claim the reward he was promised, while Kozak keeps screaming in fear for his master's life. The goblin warriors raise their spears against Hyuk, but he charges straight through them, smashes a sharpshooter's head with his mace before tearing past the rest to do the same. Kozak is stunned by how quickly his master has mastered Shadow Walk, then shouts a warning as deadly projectiles fly toward Hyuk, who just barely blocks the worst of them with a shield and a protective barrier that would have saved his life moments ago. He suddenly realizes just how terrifying this really is, wondering if he got too confident and forgot to be careful. He bolts the moment fear takes over, and Kozak shouts for him to keep running toward the cliff, promising to be there in a second. Meatball slams his chest, like a gorilla, reminding everyone he must keep the summoner safe. Hyuk keeps running, but his legs are getting heavy as the warrior goblins press closer and closer. Finally, he walks straight into a wall with no way out. He stands trapped between a jagged rock and hungry goblins, raising his shield and praying for luck while convinced he's about to die. Just then, Meatball steps in with a huge hand to shield him, and the goblins hesitate, no longer daring to rush forward. With one strong punch, he smashes them all into mush, and Kosik cheers him on as he tackles more goblin assassins. The shamans try to bring him down, but his speed is too fast for them to catch. He believes that by protecting the shamans on the cliff, Hyuk will be safe even as he slashes his way through until there is no one left to kill. He's sure they've rounded up all 100 goblins, which means the big reveal is just around the corner. Hyuk was amazed that Meatball wiped out all the goblins in a snap, but less thrilled that the giant monster was standing right there and nearly squashed him with its huge cheeks. Suddenly, though, he hears a terrifying roar. There's a tall goblin with long legs who is actually the last and strongest kind of goblin, made to tease the sad, short-legged ones who can't reach his height. Kozak leaps from the cliff and yells for Meatball to attack, so the giant charges right at the gaunt hobgoblin and crashes into it. He squeezes his own throat tight to hold them still, letting Kozak rush in to blind both creatures and end their lives. With that done, the 20th floor is finally cleared, Hyuk's level goes up, and he gets a 2-kilogram mana stone as a reward, which weighs about 4.4 pounds. Kozak praises Hyuk for his win, but Hyuk is amazed that he just defeated the boss mob in one hit, so maybe it's best to let them handle everything from now on. He also thanks them for working so hard to keep him safe. This was another S++ mission, so he earned his shiny new platinum badge. Word of this amazing feat quickly takes over, turning into a shocking headline that leaves everyone stunned. The chief can't believe it, because while hitting the 20-story mark is great, too much fuss over who did it is becoming a real problem. Lee suggests keeping the press in check to stop anyone from figuring out who did it, but he says no because that secret could slip out and cause serious trouble. Yet Jung quietly checked into the player's family life, after all. His dad, Mr. Bong Soo-cheel, had to go to rehab after breaking his hip on the ice a few months back. The chief asked for help, so Jung planned to take him to the best rehab center in the country, but wondered if he really should. The chief agrees, so Jung turns his attention to Hyuk's younger brother, the university freshman who is about to join the military and could use some scholarship help, and finally to his mother, Ms. Hong Jiamja, who used to coordinate water purification but now has no job. It looks like she got kicked out of the company after getting into a fight with a very angry customer. For the record, the one everyone needs to watch out for is the mother, who has the loudest voice in the family and is so strong-willed that no one dares to speak up once she makes her mind up. The chief gives the green light, telling him to make it happen with all the power he can, while Jong promises to do whatever it takes to help Hyuk's family. Back at Kozak's apartment, he smells the delivery guy right away, and Meatball bounces up and down, ready to punch another hole in the door. Hyuk hides them both so no one can see. Then a delivery driver walks in asking if he's throwing a party since he ordered 12 bowls of everything. Hyuk grumbles that the single dumpling is stingy and notices there are no coupons, wondering how he could even order food online with them if they existed. He shouts for everyone to come out, and Kozak is shocked to see that he ordered cha-jang again. Meatball, who had never tasted it before, shoves the whole plate into his mouth, causing Kozak to scream at him again. Hyuk tells everyone to eat since he needs to check something and then opens his inventory. He has earned 20 platinum badges that promise a special reward, yet he can't wait to find out what surprise this one holds. Just then, a random box lights up brightly right in front of Hyuk's eyes. This random box gives you 3 random treasures from the tower, which could be anything at all. Hyuk ponders the endless choices, wondering if he should just glance over them since it's all random and he shouldn't feel pressured to fear missing out. He looks at mana stones, herbs, metals, weapons, and armor, but none of them feel right for him. He wonders if the rune just boosts his power while he stays on the same floor, meaning he'd miss out on the rewards, but luckily there's a ticket that lets him skip the boring floors. He thinks the level up rune is nice, and the international tower ticket lets him clear towers from other lands, but the grade confirmation summon ticket is the best choice because it might finally let him pull the legendary LSSR. He could skip the dungeon crawl and just relax while his rare summon does all the heavy lifting for him. The box will give him 3 items, and there's actually a chance it will do just that. He opens it with a hopeful prayer that something good will be inside. His very first prize is a heavy mana stone weighing 10 kilograms, or about 22 pounds. Hyuk sighs, calling it the worst possible reward since he can grab mana stones anytime he wants, but he's still happy to sell them. For his second reward, he gets a skill called Chaos Lightning Staff, which sounds just like something out of a martial arts movie. After the final pull, He hopes for something useful, and to his relief, the wish is granted as he receives the summon grade rune. This is a dream come true for him, since it can boost his summon's level. But now he's stuck wondering which of his two equally loyal and foolish friends deserves the upgrade. He should probably pick Kozak, since they've shared so many meals together. He chose to save it for later, since they already have enough power and don't need more. But the real challenge was mastering the skill that channels lightning into a blunt weapon with 3 forms. And since he desperately needed an offensive power, he grabbed it and instantly flooded his mind with all the knowledge he needed to use it. Hyuk rushes to grab his weapon and test it, but nothing happens, so he shrugs it off and decides to try again later in the tower, since if he could really use such power, the world would have ended ages ago. Kozak questions why he was just swinging his mace, but Hyuk points out that he earned a new skill for it. Kozak wonders if that's an offensive move, and Hyuk confirms it is, adding that it's also a skill that grows stronger over time. Kozak breaks down in tears and spills his food, which Meatball gobbles up instantly, sparking a fight between them. Hyuk just sends them all away, having had enough for the day. The next day, Hyuk finally sees what Kozak is truly afraid of, the danger of his summoner trait. Because his summoned allies do all the fighting, this irregular summoner doesn't need to step in himself, especially since he can bring powerful creatures into reality with ease. The stranger from another world who spoke to Kozak before him had to be far stronger than he was. But even with all that power, they ended up dead, and their whole world was wiped away. It makes total sense that Kozak feels worried, because anyone in his place would be too. But since he's just a human who barely woke up to being tough, he has to test out this new attack skill to prove his manhood, and luckily his 2 obedient followers will listen to whatever he says. He calls both of them over, and Kozak looks so worried he might just fall apart. He believes that using offensive skills is even worse than poison, and he felt truly uneasy while clearing the 20th floor. Sure, the goblins are no match for him, but fighting them won't help him take on the orcs. Hyuk wonders if he's going to tie him up, maybe with a special knot like a butterfly one. Kozak refuses to believe it, but the rules have changed so that the first principle now rules above all else. Meatball grabs him sternly, reminding him to save his energy for the tower, and wonders why he's moving so slowly. Kozak promises Hyuk that Meatball will guard him inside the tower and help him win, but Hyuk is shocked they turn against him and realizes he has no choice but to use his final move. He flicks on his secret move, the sad puppy eyes, and begs Kozak to forgive him this one time, promising to be much more careful from now on. Kozak doesn't believe him, but Hyuk bets his whole future on it, refusing to run away and finding the slow, careful killing of just one enemy far more interesting than waiting around. Kozak stands speechless while Hyuk begs nonstop until Kozak finally gives in, but he promises to jump in the moment things get too dangerous. With that, they stepped inside the 21st floor. Kozak says that orcs are strong, but not very smart. Maybe just a little smarter than Meatball here, even though people think they're dumber. Hyuk readies his gear and insists they need 10 practice runs before heading out, but Kozak scoffs and says he's ready for 100 if he has to. Kozak says to fire at the Meatball dummy since it won't feel the shot anyway. Hyuk questions why they are hitting a Meatball. Kozak jokes it's just 10 easy hits. Meatball agrees, but Hyuk refuses and threatens to charge alone since he's already got the idea for the move and thinks training on an orc would be better. Your mission is to beat 30 forest orcs before the clock runs out after 4 hours. Kozak and Meatball charge in first, with Meatball leaping forward to smash an orc with a mighty punch while Kozak dashes through the enemy, hacking them apart into tiny pieces. Hyuk is blown away by their incredible speed and knows things will be done before he even gets a chance to fight an orc. Suddenly, Kozak stops at a puzzled orc who didn't get hit either. Hyuk realizes it was meant for him and dashes in, using Shadow Step to reach the spot right away. Kozak moves aside, letting the orc swing at Hyuk, who slips out of the way and delivers a quick vertical slash with his Lightning Soul Chaser move. However, the strike is so powerful it shatters the orc's skull, and after Hyuk stands over the defeated monster, he smiles, thinking it was far too easy. Keeping that promise in mind, he tries to grab another, but Meatball slams the orc to the ground while Kozak drives a knife into its head, since they only agreed to kill one enemy after all. With that, they swept the 21st floor clean, leaving him leveled up with a mana stone, 5 special healing potions, and another platinum badge in hand. The next day, Hyuk fights down a desert orc and clears the 22nd floor. The next day, a single cave orc appeared. So he went on to slay a volcano orc, and even though it was a bit tougher than the rest, he managed to win. The next morning, Hyuk woke up smiling because they had finally made it to the 25th floor. Catching just one enemy at a time feels a bit boring, so for now, he still has to build trust with Kozak. As he slips on his pants, He remembers he hasn't handed anything to Meatball or Kozak since they joined him, so he decides to give them a rune now. He calls Kozak over to show off a rune he found, which turns out to be a special upgrade that makes his summoned friend stronger. Kozak is so surprised he tries to take a bite, and Hyuk can't help but smile seeing him enjoy it. Kozak is confused about whether he really wants to give this away, since using it would boost the grade all the way to SSR. His heart swells with joy because he knows he can now protect him even better. Hyuk happily watches him feel better and asks if the upgrade can start now. But Kozak warns that rushing it is dangerous, so he'll wait until returning today to give Hyuk a brand new look before leaving, which makes Hyuk wonder if he's really just walking out since they could hang out a bit more. So, Kozak grabs the remote and decides to watch some TV. They both sit down, and Hyuk wonders if he'll just watch the same old reruns again, or if he should rent a movie. Though Kozak thinks renting costs too much, and Hyuk knows they have plenty of money to spend, but then Hyuk spots something and tells Kozak to switch the channel back. Kozak keeps digging until he finds a broadcast featuring Hyuk's bewildered mother, who has no idea why she is suddenly on the news. His mom is standing up against water purifier bosses and fighting to stop companies from playing dirty, because she finally reached her breaking point after being treated so unfairly. What really makes her furious is that the company made her apologize to a customer even though she did nothing wrong. Because she refused to bend over for them, the only thing that came back was a notice saying her job was over. All she got from her 10-day solo protest was to be laughed at by the company bosses, who probably still have her story on repeat. But she doesn't care at all, and if they show up again, she'll just ram them right back. While she was still feeling grumpy, someone showed up to say thank you for all her hard work. He steps forward, introducing himself as Attorney Lee from the law firm Park and Kim. The moment Hyuk's mom hears it's a law firm, she gets furious, convinced they're trying to sue her. But she refuses to back down, so Lee tries to calm her by explaining that he came here to do the opposite and is ready to sue the company that fired her. Since Park and Kim is Korea's top law firm, they'll take her case for free. She submitted a petition to the labor office, which a public servant friend of his told him about, leaving her surprised since this yearly project for disadvantaged groups is just something her firm does. Hyuk's mom looks skeptical, yet she doesn't seem to be lying, so should he really trust her? Lee says she's been working hard all along, so this feels like a lucky break where they'll risk their own honor just to win the case for her. Hyuk's mom finally gives in and lets them take care of the defense. Lee didn't hesitate. With a quick flick of his wrist, he was already diving into the media work. Suddenly, thousands of reporters crowd in front of her, thrusting her story into the eyes of the whole world. With a thumbs up, he tells her to go ahead and answer the reporters' questions in detail as long as she can. She must not forget one single injustice she faced, because sharing them will finally show the truth to everyone. While she is busy, Hyuk sulks in his room, completely unaware that his mother is actually going through a tough time all by herself. At this moment, what's the point of having two sons when they are so ungrateful and can't be trusted in a time like this? But how could she ever afford a lawyer from Park and Kim law firm, since those big guys charge so much that a few pennies wouldn't even make a dent in the bill? Kozak spins his daggers and wonders if he should stop by that company just once. Hyuk feels good about getting it, but though it's nice, he tells him not to do that. Watching his mother's interview, he feels she already has a good lawyer and decides he should pay for her legal fees later. With his mana stones already totaling 10 million won, he'll just sell the energy barrier kit if that cash doesn't cover the cost. Just as suddenly, his father calls to ask about the news, and after Hyuk confirms he's seen it, his father reassures him that his mother's lawyer is ready, even though Hyuk was planning to pay the fees himself. But his father insists he just keep working hard and not worry about his mother. He also received a call from Ilsong Hospital today. He's been picked for a special hip surgery recovery project at Ilsong, so he's staying in the hospital for a few days while they get him ready. With a bit of luck, the hospital rehab might even be free, and if that's true, he can finally stop worrying about the money. Hyuk hangs up and stares at Ilsong Hospital, Korea's top clinic run by a massive company, and can't help but wonder why it feels so strange. The whole family is feeling lucky, so maybe today really is a special day. He calls his brother to ask if he saw their mother's interview, knowing she thought it was about to explode and remembering how hard she worked to raise them, so he considers sending his allowance to her instead. If the legal battle goes on, they'll likely spend a fortune, but brother says it's no big deal since he has enough cash to cover tuition and buy a laptop anyway. He actually got a scholarship, proving that living kindly truly brings luck. Hyuk, suspicious of the scholarship, asks about its source, but his brother explains it's a national award from the Awakening Management Department since they hand out many of them. Hyuk had expected this, and it wasn't luck or the heavens giving him a hand, but the work of the Awakening Management Department, which had arranged everything from his mom's lawyer to his dad's surgery and even his brother's scholarship. Thinking about it, he calls Jong to find a quiet place for them to meet, and Jong agrees to pick him up so they can have a meal together. He brings Hyuk to a barbecue place, and the moment they sit down, he demands to know why Hyuk did it, listing the family troubles like his mom's lawsuit, his dad's hospital stay, and his brother's scholarship. Jong doesn't deny it. He just says it was totally necessary. When trouble struck home, worry grew so strong it ruined his tower clearing. Yet Hyuk knew he had done exactly that without ever asking for permission. Isn't that special care just for the elite team, while he is only on a regular contract? Jong suddenly smashes the table and slams the ultra-elite contract down on it, noting that they can sign right now, of course, if he feels like this is charity. Hyuk's face shows a bit of surprise because this stranger clearly showed up ready for everything. But he hasn't found his confidence yet, and his talent isn't shining bright just yet. Hearing this, Jong stands up and asks if he truly believes that breaking such a record changes everything. Hyuk couldn't possibly say that, because after clearing 24 floors at S++ rank one after another, it would just sound like fake modesty. Jong suddenly drops to his knees and begs him to sign, clearly worried because they just went through a scary incident with that Choi guy. If he steps into the elite team and gets the care he deserves, he'll never have to face that kind of trouble again, and everyone knows he's more than ready for it. Hyuk tries to make Jong sit down because he feels embarrassed, but Jong keeps going, hoping that signing the elite contract will keep him safe with VIP-level protection, even though Hyuk worries that someone always following him would feel awkward, and he doesn't want his life being filmed. The player refuses to sign because he won't let Kozak and Meatball get dragged into the trouble of recording videos. Jong says he can handle the recording and security however he wants, and Hyuk asks just how he plans to change things. Jong says he can live alone in a super safe place most days, but if he wants guards outside, they can be there for him and his family too. Even as Hyuk hesitates, Jong lands the final blow by revealing that signing the elite contract instantly means he'll get 2 houses, one for his family and one for himself. This stabs Hyuk right in the heart, and he wonders if it's truly okay to be so blunt, but Jong just smiles, says his face has already said it all, and tells him not to worry because he's here with the chief's full power, just asking for signature. Hyuk joyfully snatches up the pen to get started, but then halts his hand because he needs just a bit more time. Jong wonders why the time matters, and Hyuk realizes Jong just wants a bit of advice before making his choice. The next day, Hyuk calls for Kozak only to find him transformed into a glowing gemstone. Hyuk tells him to change back because his eyes hurt, and once that's done, Kozak wonders why he isn't calling for Meatball too, only for Hyuk to explain that he had already spoken with him separately before clearing the 25th floor to discuss something important. Kozak knows he wouldn't be talking to Meatball if this were impossible, so Hyuk explains that after meeting the elite team's leader yesterday and getting an offer, he's now stuck deciding whether to stay in his current group or join the top team. Kozak is on our side, and since he's a top-tier champion, he gets the respect he deserves. Hyuk wonders if climbing to the 60th floor or even higher is really okay for him. So Kozak tells him it's definitely possible, but Hyuk knows he'll have to train hard to make it happen. But Kozak instantly says no. He only needs to live long, because staying safe is already his greatest strength, isn't it? In the room where he waited before being called, he could gather every single legendary SSR hero at once, as long as he felt safe. They all follow his lead with perfect obedience, doing exactly what he says as long as it doesn't break the 3rd rule. There are also a few monster heroes who have risen above being human, and even he finds them truly terrifying. Hyuk is shocked and can't even picture how powerful they would be. He admits he can't call on such powerful beings right now, but Kozak agrees that once his powers grow, he will be able to do it. So he should live a long, long life and just consistently do random summons. That is his ultimate skill.